Number two, frankly, I don't know why the president felt the need to tweet on this subject at all. You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing in the Senate today. Democrats are literally shutting down the government over $1.5 trillion in spending demands, and the one calling the shots isn't Chuck Schumer. It's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I sat there thinking, this isn't politics anymore. It's a socialist takeover. AOC actually said, if you really want to negotiate, come see me. That's not democracy. That's dictatorship from the far left. Let me break down exactly how AOC hijacked the Democratic Party and why this shutdown is.
Well, the shutdown melodrama continues. I love the smell of melodrama in the morning. It smells like the United States Senate. I said the other day that this shutdown is just further proof that human evolution is a slow process. This shutdown, what you're witnessing now, is just further proof of why it took human beings thousands of years to learn how to stand upright. This shutdown is bone deep, down to the marrow, stupid. Some shutdowns are based on policy. Some shutdowns are based on politics. Some shutdowns are based on a combination of both. This one is pure. It's pure as ivory snow. This shutdown is based on politics. Let me tell you what's going on. I believe in a two-party system, Mr. President. Why? Because two parties create competition. And competition makes all of us better. It does. The Democratic Party, the opposite of my party, the Republican Party. The Democratic Party is competing within itself right now. And there is a distinct wing of the Democratic Party that is winning that competition. If I wanted to use a pejorative expression, I would call it the loon wing of the party. The loon wing of the Democratic Party. Or you might call it the Bolshevik wing of the Democratic Party. I think a more accurate description is to call it the socialist wing of the Democratic Party. I think that's fair. Now, I'm not saying that all of my Democratic friends are socialists. But there is clearly a wing of the Democratic Party that can only be described accurately as the socialist wing of the party. And that party is in ascendancy. That party is in control. Now, my friend Senator Schumer is the leader of the Democrats in the United States Senate. And he, of course, has instructed his colleagues to vote to shut down government. And Senator Schumer has been criticized for that. And I understand. I don't agree with him. I think he made a mistake. But I don't think Senator Schumer is the leader of this effort. I don't. I think Senator Schumer, like many of his colleagues, would like to be loved by everybody in the party, and he would like to be loved by the socialist wing of his party, And I do think that's part of what is motivating this shutdown, and that's why I say it's all about politics. But I don't think Senator Schumer is the person in charge, because Senator Schumer is not the leader of the socialist wing of his party. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is. She's running the show. It was no accident the other day the Congresswoman let it slip. She said, if you really want to negotiate an end of this shutdown, come see me. Come see me. And I think any fair-minded person has to look right now and say that the two leading members, the quarterback, the two leading members of the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, the quarterback is Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. Now, her substitute is Senator Bernie Sanders. But I think it's the Congresswoman who's calling these shots. Now, Mr. President, I don't hate anybody. I've said that repeatedly, and I mean it. I like all of my colleagues. I look for grace wherever I can find it. When I say my prayers, I do. Every single time, I ask God, don't let me hate, because it's hard sometimes. It's hard up here. But I do. I say, God, don't let me hate. And I certainly don't hate Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. I want to make that very clear. She has the right to her opinion. She has the right to try to have the socialists take over the Democratic Party. That's the American way. Ironically, I think what she's doing is anti-American, but she has the right as an American to do it, so I don't hate her. But I judge her by her policy. She has her opinion, and I have mine. And I have to judge her candidly by her policy. Here is what the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, led by Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, has said to the American people and to the United States Congress and the Republicans in Congress. If you Republicans don't agree to make the federal government $1.5 trillion, not $1 million, not $1 billion, $1.5 trillion bigger, we're going to shut government down. Well, of course we said no. I'm not going to vote for that. My mother didn't raise a fool. And as I've said before, if she did, it was one of my brothers. I'm never going to vote for that. Now, where do I come up with this figure of $1.5 trillion? Well, the first thing that the socialists and Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez is asking us to do is to repeal the health care reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill. We just passed them. We just passed them. Here it is, Subtitle B, Health in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now, we didn't cut Medicaid in the One Big Beautiful Bill. In fact, under our bill, Medicaid is going to increase 2% a year over the next 10 years. Now, what we did by reforming Medicaid, which Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez wants us to reverse, we cut out the waste and the fraud. For example, we found out that there are, no kidding, I'm not just making this up, we found out that there are 2.8 million people on Medicaid who are double dipping in America. They're either signing up for Medicaid in Louisiana and Mississippi, double dipping, or they're signing up for Medicaid in Louisiana and they're signing up for the Obamacare subsidies. That's called cheating. Our bill would put an end to that. And it would save about $140 billion on 10 years. The socialist wing of the Democratic Party and a Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez want us to reverse that. The second thing we did in our health care reforms in the One Big Beautiful Bill is to say you've got to stop lying when you apply for Medicaid. Under President Obama, we had virtually no eligibility checks. People could walk in and the Medicaid folks would say, how much do you make a year? And they could say $30,000 a year. And they'd say, okay, you qualify. Now, I trust people. I've said it before on this floor. I play cards with my friends all the time. They're friends. I cut the cards anyway. We have found, for example, just in Louisiana, we did a statistical sample of the people on Medicaid in Louisiana. Our auditors found 1,600 people on Medicaid making $100,000 a year or more. That's cheating. So our bill put an end to that. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and the Socialist
I
wing...
said it right there on the Senate floor. The shutdown melodrama continues. I joked that it smells like melodrama in the morning, the smell of the United States Senate. But behind the humor, there's something deadly serious. This shutdown is proof that human evolution can be a slow process. It's not based on policy or principle. It's based purely on politics. I've always believed in a two-party system because competition makes us better. But right now, the Democratic Party isn't competing with us. It's fighting itself. There's a wing of that party, a radical socialist wing, and it's winning. I'm talking about the AOC faction, the part of the Democratic Party that's more interested in ideology than common sense. Now, I don't hate anyone. I've said it before, I pray every night, God, don't let me hate. But I can't ignore what AOC and her followers are doing to this country. They've hijacked the Democratic Party, and Chuck Schumer is just along for the ride. He's not leading anymore. AOC is. She even said the quiet part out loud. If you really want to negotiate, come see me. Think about that. A member of the House is publicly telling the Senate Majority Leader she's in charge of negotiations. And the sad thing is, she's right. Here's what the shutdown is really about. AOC and her socialist allies are demanding that Republicans agree to make the federal government $1.5 trillion bigger, or they'll keep the government closed. That's the ransom note. And what does that $1.5 trillion include? First, they want to undo the Medicaid reforms we passed to stop fraud and waste. We discovered 2.8 million people double-dipping in Medicaid, some collecting benefits in multiple states or under Obamacare subsidies. Our reforms would save taxpayers $140 billion over 10 years. AOC wants to reverse all that. Second, we found people making six figures getting free Medicaid, literally $100,000 a year, and our bill stopped it. AOC wants to bring it back. She's fighting for people who cheat the system. Third, we said if you're an able-bodied adult with no dependents, you should work, study, or serve your community 20 hours a week to qualify for benefits. That's not cruelty. That's common sense. Jobs lift people out of poverty. Welfare should be a bridge, not a parking lot. But AOC and her socialist faction want to remove that too. Fourth, they're demanding to keep pandemic-era Obamacare subsidies for the wealthy. These subsidies were meant for struggling Americans. Now, thanks to Biden's changes, even people making $200,000 or $600,000 a year can get taxpayer-funded health care. That's insane. The pandemic is over. Yet AOC says if we don't keep these giveaways for the rich, she'll shut the government down. And finally, you want to talk about waste? AOC's list of must-have spending is unbelievable. We're talking about $3 million for circumcision programs in Zambia, $500,000 for electric buses in Rwanda, $3.6 million for pastry and dance classes for male prostitutes in Haiti, and millions more for LGBTQ programs abroad. Republicans cut that nonsense out, and AOC is demanding we put it all back in. That's what this fight is about. She's holding the entire government hostage over foreign projects, woke spending, and socialist ideology. And what are we Republicans asking for? A clean, continuing resolution. 6 weeks to keep negotiating without new spending or policy riders. That's it. No gimmicks. No ransom. Just common sense. But AOC and the socialist wing refuse. They want their $1.5 trillion of what I called pure, unadulterated spending porn. And until they get it, they're keeping the government shut down. Now, I don't hate her. She's an American. She has every right to her opinions. But I'll judge her by her policies. And her policies are reckless, socialist, and dangerous. They're hurting working families and betraying taxpayers. So, to my Democratic colleagues, don't be afraid of her. Don't be afraid of the socialist wing. Meet us halfway. Let's reopen the government, cut the nonsense, and get back to doing our jobs. Because right now, the only thing more embarrassing than this shutdown is watching the Democratic Party get run by AOC.